What's up, everybody? It's the Recap Lunch Hour with me, Ryan McGuffey, here on the Recap, both on YouTube and on Facebook. And, a lot going on. First of all, it's 80 degrees outside on October 21st, and let's go with that. The weather was phenomenal this weekend. Took advantage of the bye week by catching up with the fam and doing some other stuff and watching a lot of football. And there's a lot going on. I mean, the Bears are back, which we all need after what feels to me like 2 weeks of being gone. I know we had the London game, but because of the abnormal time of 8:30 in the morning, by the time noon came around, now 10 days ago, whatever. Yeah, about 9-10 days ago, it felt like the Bears have not played to me in almost 3 weeks. So we got this big time matchup coming this weekend. It's been flexed into the 325 slot. It's going to be a national broadcast with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, and now Jayden Daniels might not play. So he leaves the game yesterday against Carolina with a rib injury. He took a pretty vicious blow while running the football. He ran for 50 yards. He only threw for 6. He had to be relieved by Marcus Mariota, who had a fantastic game, and obviously they're playing the Panthers, so you can take it with a grain of salt. But the status of Daniels at this point, it's Monday, so very unknown. I would be surprised right now. I would be surprised if he played. A rib injury is pretty serious. If you're getting further tests, not a great sign. Doesn't mean, look, these guys are young. Like, we'll see. There's a lot to be done. There's going to be a lot of posturing through the media this week. We'll see if Marcus Mariota or Jayden Daniels meets the media later this week. But most importantly, this is another chance for the Bears to take advantage of an opponent that's actually been really damn good, has already surpassed their win total from a year ago. But the Bears are trending this way, folks. The Bears are trending that way. And let's get on board. Fire away with comments. Fire away with questions, comments, concerns. Does this change the matchup for you? I don't want to hear, well, if they beat the Commanders, it's without you. I don't want to hear that crap. Like, the schedule is the schedule. I mean, I saw this over the weekend. The Lions have 3 games outdoors all year. The Detroit Lions have 3 games outdoors all year. We're going to sit there and make concessions about their schedule because they're playing indoors? I mean, first of all, their 8 games indoors, or their 8 home games are indoors. The way that new stadiums are being built, including here in Chicago or Arlington Heights, are going to be indoors. It's just the way the nature's go. No one's going to make excuses for anybody. And you got to take advantage of an opportunity. If Jayden Daniels is in, I'm all in. That's appointment theater. But if Jayden Daniels is out, I'm all in. It's appointment theater. The way that Caleb Williams the last few weeks has played. Here, look at this right here. Okay, I just want to show you guys something real quick. Let's go with this. Here, Caleb Williams. That's why it's appointment theater, because Caleb Williams is doing that stuff the last 3 weeks. I mean, Jared Goff is probably the MVP of the league right now, unless tell me otherwise. He's playing at a ridiculously high level, but the way Caleb Williams is trending, and I know Jayden Daniels has been fantastic, but I think right now that Caleb Williams is starting to look like the rookie of the year. So come at me or don't or agree, but Caleb Williams has been completing. Look at that, almost 75% of his passes. The biggest stat that stands out by far is the giveaways. We want the touchdowns, yes, but it's the giveaways. And early in the year, obviously, they didn't have the scripted first 15 plays, and here we are. Now that they do, they seem a little more balanced. Caleb's taking control at the line, and shockingly, the Bears are off and running. Want to talk about some other things, too. The Chicago Bulls opened their season, and this week, they have 3 games. They tip off on Wednesday night, and it's a weird team to me. It's a weird team because it's a team that a lot of people kind of wrote off and thought they were rebuilding. They even kind of publicly said they didn't have a spot for Zach LaVine or Nikola Vucevic. Yet here we are with a bunch of outcasts, I guess, misfits. Maybe it's a team of misfits. It's Zach LaVine, it's Nikola Vucevic, and then most importantly, Lonzo Ball, who I expected absolutely to never see again in a Bulls uniform, is playing. So I guess, could the Bulls be a surprise team in the East? When I say surprise team in the East, I'm talking like, can they get in the playoffs? Can they be a 6 seed in the playoffs? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. They have enough talent in a watered down NBA, especially a 6 through 10. Talking about playing, I mean, the Bulls have been in the play in the last few years as a terrible, bunch of misfit toys. But, is this team like, I'm kind of on the fence. I talked to Cap last week and was like, am I curious about the Chicago Bulls? I think I am. I know Santos. I know LaVine doesn't want to be here, but he doesn't control that. What's he going to do? Sit out? I mean, he got a max deal, and the Bulls are kind of stuck with him, and so he's kind of stuck with them. So it's a two-way street. So, at this, I thought Zach handled himself. For those of you who did not see the media day stuff, I thought Zach handled himself fantastically. He came out, said his mind was clear, he's healthy, that there's no more questions about who wants to be here, who doesn't want to be here. The organization doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to hear it. He wants to hear questions about how he's going to make this a better team and he's going to be a better player. And this was the key that he said, at both ends of the floor, because we know Zach's been a pretty one-dimensional player, and the fact that he knows that he's got to be better at both ends, well, that's a guy who knows that maybe the rest of the league's telling you something, as he tried to look. Everybody tried to explore an option for Zach to get in or get out, and he's still here. And the Bulls tip off Wednesday against Oklahoma City, and not an easy test to start, but it's the NBA, and they actually were pretty, dare I say, fun to watch. And I know that I didn't see a lot of them. CHSN is trying to get on everywhere, but I did not see a lot of them. How about Kobe White? Chef Paul, let me tell you something. I think Kobe White's the best player on this team. And if the offense doesn't, like I thought in the preseason, if you watched any or kept up with any of it over the preseason, and look, I was doing a lot of game casting and NBA.coming because of the CHSN deal. And here's a question from David. Will CHSN have a deal with Comcast Wednesday? Look, they've put out a few statements over the weekend. I don't work for CHSN. I do know that they are trying hard to negotiate. They're partners with us on the recap as people are. The frustration should be here. Like from what I've been told at both sides, both at CHSN and Xfinity, but certainly more at the folks at CHSN. They are, they're fed up too. They've come to the table with two deals that were cheaper options for Xfinity, and Xfinity has basically yet to return the call. I get where Xfinity is coming from, and if like they want to be on tier 1, which costs more money to you, the consumer, and if that's their line in the sand, that it's going to have to be on tier 1 and CHSN wants it on tier 2, somebody's going to have to give. The question from you, David, will there be a deal done on Wednesday? I think if you asked anybody at CHSN right now, they would say, please, absolutely, we absolutely have to have this done. We want it done. I thought, like if I were putting all my chips in the table, I thought there'd be a deal done by the Blackhawks home opener. Not even the season opener, but the home opener. And that didn't happen. So when that kind of came and went, with each day there's a game on a Blackhawks game or a Bulls preseason game, and now the Bulls are starting on Wednesday. This is the first time. Look, I worked for NBC for 20 years. I don't remember a time ever in those 20 years, ever, where we had all 82 games. There were at least 1 or 2 or 3 national games. Going into this season, the Chicago Bulls have 82 games on CHSN. 82. So I think if you ask CHSN, they want a deal done, but I don't think it's that easy. And it doesn't sound like right now that that's going to happen. So we'll see. Hopefully the next 48 hours, something changed to a new coach would help the Bulls. No. I think Billy Donovan has a style of team he wants to play, and the misfit toys that he's had to coach have not really been his group that he would, if he had to, put up his favorite 12 and drop his offense. No. And Billy Donovan's not going anywhere, folks. Like, he just signed an extension like a year and a half ago or before the 23 season. He isn't going anywhere. Okay. He's owed a lot of money. We know about, and he's signed for a lot of money. They both kind of did something that the Reinsdorfs kind of did something they normally don't do, and that's hire a coach with experience. He had plenty of it. So Billy Donovan's not going anywhere, and quite frankly, I don't think Billy Donovan's the problem. Thomas says the only Chicago teams I watch are the Cubs and Bears. Well, Thomas, you can at least empathize with those trying to watch those other three teams because Marquee had their own issues. So I think, Thomas, you understand and can empathize that this is a situation that the Cubs also went through. And this is a situation, this is an RSN problem. This is not a CHSN problem. This is a back and forth battle that's going to continue. I think YouTube has thrown up their hands and said, we're not interested in RSNs. Hulu is very little interest. You're going to start seeing this more and more. It's why that it's why the recap exists, man. There's just so many other alternatives and outlets for people, and it's frustrating. I totally get it. Like, it should be just, let's turn the TV on and watch our game. The antenna option is interesting for those of you who've tried it. I have had people with success, and I've had people with even more frustration. Depends on where you live for some reason as to why you're getting. We're going to try something here at the recap in about a week, and we're going to install the antenna. We're going to put it out a video that says, like, kind of, here's the steps. It's not our job to tell you how to watch TV, but I would say, like, I think there is something to be said about kind of a how-to, where to go to get this, how to install on your TV, and what it looks like after you do that. So, we'll see what happens there. A couple more things I wanted to get to. Most importantly, well, not most importantly, but the World Series is something that's interesting to me. You got this dream matchup of the Yankees and Dodgers, but does Chicago care? Will you watch? I'm all in for, like, watching a point. Anytime Ohtani steps to the plate, I'm in. And anytime Aaron Judge, it's Aaron. Like, is there any scenario like Game 7, that Ohtani could pitch one inning? That would be awesome. But a dream scenario for the networks, Dodgers Yankees, man. Dodgers versus Yankees. But the question I have is, does Chicago care? I think Chicago's frustrated with baseball, right? I mean, there's a lot going on. The Sox are talking about selling. We talked about that a little bit last week. I think that's just a ploy. The Cubs are finished up the tracks yet again. And, here we are. I'll watch the World Series only to bet, says David. Okay. There'll be plenty. What do you got? Who do you like? I mean, I'll throw a little coin. Yeah, I like the option of dancing. I'm pulling for the Dodgers selfishly. I want Michael Kopech to get the last out in the ninth inning. I am all in on that. I hope he shoves like he's been doing. David, you say Yankees in 6. I'll go Dodgers in 6. How about that? We'll go. There's your bet right there, David. Maybe we'll put a Lou Malnati's pizza or something on it. But I want Michael Kopech to get the final out in the World Series. I think that would be sweet. And some people would find it frustrating. I would find it to be really cool. I already find it to be cool to see what he's done. Sean, you're going to go with David here, huh? Yankees in 6. Yankees haven't been to a World Series since 2009. With some Yankees friends, I've had the fun of telling them that the White Sox and the Cubs have both won as many World Series titles as the Yankees since 2005. It's a fun little. So part of me wants to keep that going. Thomas, great point. Really good point. Rizzo gets another ring. So that's a good Cub, fan point of view about whether or not you're watching. you do have Anthony Rizzo. I love Anthony Rizzo. Just one of the all-time greats in this town. And, you know, the Yankees roster is weird. It has a lot of like former Cubs and Sox. Nobody to the extent of Anthony Rizzo. I think the next guy on the roster that would have that type of, I shouldn't say that type, but like Carlos Rodon is probably the next player that you could make like, okay, a lot of time here, threw a no-hitter here, made it to the playoffs in 21. The White Sox, as we know, did not offer him. So he walked, and then he went to the Giants, and then the big contract with the Yankees. There's a couple fringe bullpen. I shouldn't say fringe, but like Ian Hamilton there, Tommy Kahnle is there. Tim Hill is there. Some cast-offs from the White Sox bullpen. You have Gleyber Torres for the key piece to the Aroldis Chapman trade. DJ LeMahieu, who has not been good, and he's been banged up. So there's just a lot. The Yankees have a very former Chicago roster. But again, I'm pulling for Kopech, and we'll see. I think the Cubs and Sox, in different ways, both have extremely long ways to go. And, you know, the Sox are, look, Sox and World Series are like, you're in the Northern Hemisphere and the Sox in the Southern Hemisphere, or flip it, however you want. The World Series is so. The Cubs have to figure it out. The Cubs, they had a $240 million payroll, which was top 7 in the game. The top 6 above them all went to the postseason. Okay. So it's how you spend the money, not if you spend the money. And the Cubs have a lot of stuff happening. They have a big decision coming from Cody Bellinger, not from the Cubs, about whether he'll opt out. I think he will, from what I'm hearing when I talk to Bruce Levine on Inside the Clubhouse. It's the show I host every Saturday morning on 670 The Score. He believes he'll opt out. So what does that mean for the Cubs? I think the Cubs are a Josh Hader and a big bat away from being serious about being contenders in the Central. I think they are a legit closer and a stud bat. And I'm not talking about, like, if Bellinger opts in, that stud bat is still needed. So a lot to go. Phil, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. And look, we got a lot coming. This little lunch hour thing. It's just some sports, get you guys something away from work. Cap and I will be starting a show together here soon. More details. The White Sox podcast is coming to the recap. That's going to be sick. Working on a few things there. I would like to fire that thing up as soon as this week, episode 1. I'm hopeful that it could be coming. Look at this one from Phil. Is it possible you and Cap could do some fitness-related content for the dad-aged folks out there? Well, I'm a dad. Cap's a dad. Yeah, that's fitness-related content. It's a good point. I could give you some tips as to what I do, but maybe we can have that down the line. So let's see what else we got here. What else do we have here? Sorry, can't get excited about the Bulls. Bears will beat Washington. Cubs need a few more pieces of this. I mean, OD Green, I'll just sign off, bud. I'm handing the baton to you. You got it. I think, like, I wouldn't even say cautious optimism about the Bulls. I would say, like, prove me, right? Like, prove, show me. It's a show. The Bulls are the show me state right now, where I've had enough, and it's just kind of, but I'm curious. That's where I'm at. I'm curious, where I'm kind of watching, like, I'm watching like this, like from the side, one eye open, because of this whole, like, Lonzo Ball surprised the hell out of me, man. Like, and then of course he looked great in his return. So if he can hold up from this historic surgery and come back, even if he plays 15 to 20 minutes a night, it's a different team. He's a different piece for that team. It's what they've missed for so long. As long as they can go around, run the ball through Kobe, I think there's a shot. Now, if it gets to a point where we're just everyone standing behind the arc, waiting for their chance at a three-point shot, I think you'll see much of the same with the Bulls. So, David, a couple more questions here as we get to the back end of the lunch hour. David, would you trade Nico? If so, where and for who? Okay, so Nico Horner, I'll dig up the numbers right now. He signed the extension last year. He probably got screwed out of being a Gold Glove finalist this year. He's not a finalist after winning the Gold Glove a season ago. I think you can make an argument that he definitely should have been in the mix there. He's an interesting player because he's so good defensively. He can steal bases, but he's right above a league replacement player. His career OPS plus 100 is league average. You're an average player. His career OPS plus is 100. Okay. This year is 101, 102 a year ago, 105, 106. So he's just above replacement level, but not on the defensive side. Offensively, good player, 35 doubles this year, career high, 31 stolen bases. You like to see that. He's a 335 on base guy. I guess in these days that's not bad. If so, where and for whom? Trades are the hardest thing to predict. I think if you're trading Nico, you're trying to either package him in a prospect for a big bat or power arm. And that's easier said than done because, as we know, teams now, I think Baltimore, if they're not desperate now, they'll never be desperate, and this will all flame out and they'll never win. I think Garrett Crochet in Baltimore and the White Sox, that is a perfect match. Nico is an interesting piece because the Cubs have 7 prospects in the top 100. I think if you can take Nico, plop him with one of your stud prospects, does that get you like a Vladimir Guerrero? That's kind of, David, what I'm thinking. That's the type of player the Cubs need. Clearly, that also means you're signing him. And Nico, just to give you guys, just to bring you up to speed on what he's owed $23.5 million. That's not much, in the grand scheme of things. $23.5 million over the last 2 years. Jason, waiting for the New Sox podcast. Hopefully you guys can talk about a new owner. We're not talking about a new owner because I don't think there'll be one until Jerry's no longer with us, which if anyone's rooting for that, you guys need to check yourself. So I just think that this particular sequence of things that are happening right now, I don't think Jerry Reinsdorf's selling the White Sox. I just don't. He's trying to get a new ballpark. His lease ends in 2029. They just launched a new RSN. Why all of a sudden you're going to steer right and sell? You're going to see a lot more teams at least think about selling because of the RSN stuff is a huge deal. Teams, RSN networks are going under left and right. Diamond Sports just got rid of 11 teams, 3 of which have already signed deals with Major League Baseball to be produced through the league, 8 of which who might follow that. It's really bad. You should be rooting for RSNs, but I understand how everyone's trying to bleed us out. David Gonzalez, any news on Jayden's ribs? I don't expect that we'll hear anything of note probably until Wednesday. Tuesday is the league off day. There might be a Schefter or Ian Rappaport with something out there, but nothing as of yet. And one more from you, David. Cubs have too many role players. I agree. I just don't think they're scary. I don't think the lineup that they put out there every day is one that puts any fear in the opposing pitcher. And, because of that, you're relying too much on 1 or 2 big guys to, I've heard some people suggest Isaac Paredes be traded. I know they just acquired him, but can you flip Paredes in the offseason and sign Willie Adames or something like that from Milwaukee, who's a free agent? So there's a lot going on. I think the Cubs are really interesting. I think you're going to see some stuff after the World Series. That's when stuff is going to really start. First of all, the White Sox will get a manager here in the next 10 days. And you're going to have, as soon as the World Series goes final, we're going to know in the 5 days after that whether or not Cody Bellinger's coming back. And then from there, it's the GM meetings, it's the winter meetings, and let the onslaught begin. So a couple more here as we wrap things up. I'm just going to pause for a second. If you look up the definition of ass in the dictionary, there's a few things that would come up. But David Kaplan chiming in with, would you have a red stripe beer or a margarita with lunch? Because Cap is currently watching this live stream from a pool about 3,000 miles south. Yeah, Cap, I appreciate you, buddy. Take that. And it feels like a fitting way to end. This is what Cap says he goes with. He red stripes. You know, one can Dan, be careful because those are bottles, not cans. And I just worry about Cap. You know, you got to watch out. He's 1.5 beers in. It's 90-90. You know, you're on the same time, bud, right now. It's not 7 p.m. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, which I appreciate. But watch out. One can Dan down there. Be careful. Hey, recap lunch hour with me, Guff. We're going to be doing this every day. We're going to do it every day this week. And coming, maybe Cap's going to get some breaking news here, but coming next week, hopefully, Cap and I will be bringing to you what is going to be more live content and more to come on that. The White Sox podcast, we will tell you the news on that coming too. Again, I'd like to fire that up as soon as this week. Hoping to have a special guest join us. And we want to be out in front of any White Sox breaking news, which is going to be coming here in the next week to 10 days. We love doing this stuff. More content coming from the recap. I'm Ryan McGuffey. Cap's down in a pool drinking Red Stripe. We'll see you tomorrow. This has been the lunch hour on the recap. Take that.